Broadcasting from the heart of the Colorado Rockies, it's 4th&99 with your hosts, David Slade, Keith Brookman, and Matt Staffiero. Now let's talk football here on 4th&99.
All right, good evening, sports fans. Welcome back to another amazing show, and thanks for tuning in to 4th&99 here on the Rocky Mountain Sports Network, where we talk all about the Denver Broncos with a little bit of the NFL sprinkled in. I'm your host, David Slade, and with me tonight, as always, is Matt Staffiero and Keith Brugman. Gentlemen, how you doing this evening?
Wonderful.
It is hump day.
It's really like my Thursday. I only work 4 days a week. So it's
like
Thursday.
Boy. You got the easy schedule, man. I got the full 5 days, man. So hump day it is for me. I agree with Dave.
Yep, it is hump day for me. I work 5 days too. I've thought about going to the 410s, and I'm like, nah. It's bad enough staying focused for 8 hours a day. I don't want to do it, 10 hours a day. So
yeah, well,
the 410s are beautiful.
They are when you have that Friday or that Monday off, whatever day it is. It is nice, but getting there sometimes is a little rough. So
that's fair.
It would have been a little bit rougher for me this week. This was the first week the first time I've shoveled for the season. So
you guys got some snow up there, huh?
Got enough that I had to get it off the sidewalk. Didn't want the city coming around and hollering and screaming at me. So yeah, a little bit of shoveling action up here. It's all gone now, but it was a few days ago. But hey, it's all right. We got a little snow. It put me in the Christmas spirit.
I remember last week when James Merlatt was on here, Matt invited him to get into our snow bowl, and he's going with, what did you say, Christmas Eve, Matt?
Christmas Eve is what he said.
Man, it's starting to look like that. So I think one day, maybe this weekend or next week someday, it's supposed to be pretty cold, I think in the 20s, but I don't know if there's going to be any moisture with the storm. I think it's just going to be a cold front that blows in. So
I don't
we're
like
suffering
the idea
down here.
I don't like the idea of you guys getting really cold because I'm about 2 states north of you, so it means I'm usually really cold at that point.
Oh yeah, you'll definitely be really cold, So, how's everybody's weekend? Anything exciting happen? I saw you two took the show on all by yourself Sunday and killed it.
Yeah, if killed means that I absolutely butchered the intro, then you nailed it. Hey, at least everybody in my house is getting healthy. That's all we can hope for.
Yeah. I was like the only healthy one of the bunch. As from producer to host, we were trying to put together a show, and we appreciate everyone out there that still listened, followed, shared, subscribed, because it was a rough one, but we got through it. Just like we'll get through a rough one like we did on Sunday night.
It probably was like the most unappealing audio as I'm like talking like a scarecrow the entire time. Like, but
and I even tried to crawl out of bed like at 8:45. I'm like, I'm just gonna go down there and suck it up. But I was running a temperature of about 101 and wasn't feeling good. Had a killer headache, so probably wouldn't have been any better. So I just decided to leave it to the professionals. So,
so thank goodness you're back, Dave. Thank you so much.
Hey, I'm glad to be back. Glad to be back. Thanks. Before we get rolling, we got a lot to talk about tonight. Let's thank our sponsor, Willow Seasonings and Blends, for sponsoring tonight's show. Check out their product lineup at willowseasonings.com. If you're a rib fan, and I know who isn't a rib fan, you lay down a Lara Sweet Heat and a Lara Sweet Smoke, that's going to take your ribs to a whole different level. A guy up in Cheyenne uses that combination in a barbecue competition, and he won first place several times. So, go over to willowseasonings.com and put a little spice into your life. So, all right, guys, you guys ready to talk some football?
Let's do it.
All right, we got some NFL news. I mean, New England. I did not see New England here. I saw New England running away I saw Buffalo running away with the AFC East. And not And New England not alone only is in first place. They got the number 1 seed in the AFC right now.
Yeah.
I mean, did anybody see this coming, Keith?
No, not at all. I mean, I was looking back. I was trying to remember, so I did a look back. They were once 2-4. They had losses to the Dolphins and the Saints at that point, and one of their wins was a narrow win versus the Texans. I don't think anybody saw this coming. I think this was a complete surprise. I think, at that point when they were like 2-4, I mean, there were people questioning maybe Belichick has nothing to do with it. Maybe it was all Tom Brady. Maybe McDaniels is overrated.
Well, and that's
we'll probably all agree with that. But
that's what everybody was saying last year. Is Tampa Bay's just rolling to the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
I mean, and Tampa Bay's just struggling along with Cam Newton. And.
Yeah,
Matt, did you see Mac Jones doing this?
No, we can't credit the win in Buffalo to Mac Jones with 2 passes out of 3. I mean, 3 attempts.
I'm not talking about just the Buffalo game. I'm talking
no one
thought right now.
No, Mac Jones is pushing himself into being the AFC rookie. I mean, the NFL Rookie of the Year, hands down.
Yeah, when you throw 3 passes in a game, complete 2 of them for 19 yards,
and you still win.
You're not going to win the AFC Offensive Player of the Week,
No, but he's going to be he's trending towards winning the Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Oh, he definitely is.
It's kind of funny how history repeats itself, right? The quarterback that nobody thought was going to be, was going to be the shindig, the one that everyone doubted.
Well, and I'm going to give a shout out right now to Dennis Russell. Dennis Russell, used to be a part of RMSR, and he was telling us all, hey, Mac Jones, he's the man. He's going to be the best quarterback out of this class. And we all told him it's crazy. And we started watching Mac Jones, and we're like, whoa, this guy's good. And now he just comes in and look at him. So
I heard someone say, if this is his ceiling, I'm okay with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone came in and said, hey, he might be at his ceiling. Well, if this is his ceiling,
Well, yeah, that means he just took the express to the penthouse,
Yeah.
Took the express elevator. So, I mean, nothing wrong with that. So let's get into another topic in the NFL and player safety issue. I mean, everyone saw the Kenyon Drake thing, where he gets tackled from behind and almost, I can't believe, did he fracture his
it's broken.
So
it's a full break is what it sounds like. And the premise of this is he went out on social media after it happened, and he's like, NFL, he targeted the NFL. He went out and said NFL wants to put all this emphasis on dumb things like taunting and celebrations and having fun and having a good time, but yet they consistently disregard player safety. He was highlighting this is the second time this injury's happened from the same type of tackle where it's ended his season. He goes on to highlight, we only get limited years, to be effective in this league. And when we consistently see things like this not be addressed, but a guy who wants to dance around and, shake his groove thing, get, a 15-yard penalty, it feels like the NFL is maybe putting their attention in the wrong places.
Yeah,
and I agree with him.
I do too. And I mean, what do you think, Keith? I mean,
I'm in a half agreement. I just don't know how you really put a situation into place where you can really stop this type of tackling. It still needs to be football. You know what I mean? It's really, we're taking so many ways away of tackling and hitting and defending, and it's becoming such an offensive league. I don't know really how you take away tackling from behind and rolling up on a guy.
Well,
but
right.
But as far as the focus, I will agree. I've been on our show for a while now saying, quite honestly, I think the taunting penalties and some of the things that spiking the ball but spinning the ball are 2 different things. But to me, I think it's just as disrespectful to spike versus spin, and don't tell me it's just because it's a delay a game and it's making the game longer. It's not believable. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. I mean, you can't take away. You can't penalize the defense on everything and make it so you can't tackle a guy from behind. I mean, so what? The guy just busts by you and you just got to say, "Whoop, sorry, see you, man." I mean, that's just part of the game, and that's one of the inherent risks that you assume. But I understand where Kenyon Drake's coming from. The NFL's a little misguided in where they're focusing their attention. let's focus more on player safety, but let's get it right. Let's have good rules. Let's not have stupid rules, I mean, tackling somebody, I understand the horse collar, that's totally, acceptable. But if a guy's in front of you and you're trying to tackle him, I mean, that's just part of the game. I mean, if you don't like it, retire is my opinion.
Yeah, and I think what I guess my concern, trying to play the opposition here is when we see the players are being held up, and then you have that guy who just it's always a big lineman, it's always someone big, grabs those back of those shoulder pads after these guys are being held up, and then decides to drop into them. I think that's kind of what he's getting at. I don't think he's highlighting tackling from behind is going to happen, but how often do we see the defense trying to hold these guys up, trying to rip the ball out, trying to make a big play, and someone flies in and obliterates the punch, or flies in and grabs the back and falls into those legs? I think that's more what it's highlighting. I'm
going to play devil's advocate here, because they have taken the game and they've made it so offensive minded that everything benefits the offense. The defense has to try to strip the ball. Guys aren't holding guys up waiting for another guy to just come in and hurt somebody. That's not what they're trying to do. And you know what? If it looks like, forward progress is stopped and everything, then the referees need to be a little quicker with their whistles, and protect the players that way. But let's not have a knee-jerk reaction and say, well, no more tackling from behind, guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I don't think that's possible. I think that would be the most sensical way to view this if you were looking at the opposition, through his perspective. And we get that. But at the same time, though, if the NFL's already proven once they want this to be 50-65, they want this to be college football scoring. That's what they want. Mm-hmm. So if something like this does come down the pipeline,
I know why, right? Fantasy football is so huge. Fantasy football generates so much money and fantasy football wouldn't be fun if you had 13 to 10 games. And
that's very true.
That's why you have these things going this way, is because so much money is being pumped in with betting and fantasy football and everything else. So, it's unfortunate somebody got hurt. Sorry, Keith, go ahead.
No, I was just say, there's two sides of the league, right? There's the money side and then there's the sports side, right? So you're absolutely right. There's a lot of money that's being ridden on, 60 to 50 games, so.
Yeah, definitely. So, and it's unfortunate. Kenyon Drake got hurt. And unfortunately he probably won't be the other one, but I'm with him too on these taunting penalties. Some of them are just, they're just asinine,
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So, all right. Joe Brady fired.
Yeah.
This week. Sunday morning. At first, when I saw it, I'm like, Carolina has a game today, and they fired I didn't realize they had a bye. I'm like, man, he must have really made Matt Rule mad to get fired at 8:00 the day of the game. So, but Joe Brady out as the offensive coordinator of Carolina. Jason Garrett gets fired from the Giants. Who's next? And you can't say Pat Shurmur. Do you guys have anybody who might be on a hot seat now? Doesn't have to be just coordinator. It can be a head coach. It can be anything. We'll start with you, Keith. Do you have anybody that you think might want to be watching their back?
The one that kind of gets me is maybe Shane Waldron, offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. He's in his first year, and everything is just falling apart up in Seattle. Let's face it. They're supposed to come in, implement this new offense. It's supposed to be quick hitting and have a lot of movement and save Russell Wilson. But if you look at statistical categories, they're one of the worst offenses in the league. And I'm just wondering, do you stick with something like that, especially when, Russell Wilson was a hot commodity last year, possibly on the market, and maybe a hot commodity this upcoming year on the market. So I think they might be all in to make sure that they do the right things. And if Waldron's not happy, if Russell Wilson's not happy with Waldron, that could be a quick fix to try to keep him in Seattle.
Right. Definitely. Matt, anybody on your radar might be in trouble?
I definitely have a couple who come to mind. Mike Zimmer.
Give me one.
Okay.
Give me one, Matt.
Oh, that's tough. Okay. I'm going to go with Mike Zimmer. you just got beat out by the Lions. I mean, you haven't, you can't make the playoffs consistently. You've been given a ton of weapons offensively. You got Adam Thielen, you got Justin Jefferson, you got Dalvin Cook. Your defense is, your defense has been stout, but it's kind of similar to what we've had here in Denver. It's just hasn't come together and not play. You don't make the playoffs consistently. It's kind of time for a change, and I think Mike Zimmer could be on his way out.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Anthony Lynn. Anthony Lynn at Detroit. Detroit's offense is horrible. We thought our offense in Denver was bad. I think the Lions are averaging 16.9 points a game. They scored over 20 points twice this year. Dan Campbell's already taken away play calling from Anthony Lynn, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him. I don't know if we see any more, terminations during the season, but maybe at the end of the season, I see Anthony Lynn maybe, going.
Yeah,
So
it's funny. Matt hit my one of my first choices as well, because Zimmer is, I think, I don't know where he sits with ownership, but otherwise, boy, he should have done more with this team. Kirk Cousins looks like he's on pace to do about 4,500 yards again this season, but
Right.
It doesn't look like they're going to do anything that is going to accomplish anything. So
no, I mean they got 5 wins. I mean, it's like, what's going on there in Minnesota? So, and speaking of Detroit, I mean, we got Detroit coming into town this week, and I think a lot of Bronco fans were fearful that Denver was going to be the team that Detroit got their first win against.
yeah.
I mean, luckily we got bailed out last week. So
Yeah, we have to thank the Minnesota Vikings again this week. It seems like it's been like free agent pickups or signings or trades, whatever have you. This week, thank you very much to the Vikings for making sure that the Lions got their first win against somebody other than the Denver Broncos.
right. So, it's I'm glad we don't have that. We're not carrying that pressure now that we're going to be the first team to lose to. Because I'm going to tell you what, Lions, they don't score a lot of points, but the Lions are always in football games. I think they've lost 4 games by like 3 points or less. So
yeah, I was going to say they're always playing tough. You always see them out there playing.
Right,
tough.
they just always find some way to blow it at the end.
Oh, the Lions are the Lions. They'll always find a way to lose.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
I wasn't talking next week yet. I'm not ready to put the bad juju on the Broncos just yet.
So no, I know what you mean. So, all right, let's speaking of Broncos, let's do a recap of the nightmare in KC.
How many words do I get, Dave?
I'm not going to start with you, Matt. So
You never start with me. That's fine.
So, 2 of us on this panel really thought the Broncos had a chance, and I really did. So, I mean, Keith, what do you think went wrong?
Oh boy, it is tough to tell because we've been talking about Javonte Williams being able to hit the ground running and be the RB1, and he hit the ground running. He was the RB1. He ran for a ton of yards and put up touchdowns. But I hate to say it, I've been a kind of a Teddy Bridgewater fan. Teddy Bridgewater was not the guy. Yeah, if anybody who's tuning in live and seeing it on video, 23 carries, 102 yards, 6 receptions, 76 yards, 1 receiving touchdown.
Yeah,
guy was all over the place.
Yeah, he had a great game. I mean, I think, and Matt, I'll see if you agree with me on this. This is one game I am not going to blame Pat Shurmur. I think the offensive game plan was good enough for us to win. I think it was poor execution on the players' part.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And before I give my take to why we lost, let's just focus on that execution real quick. Everyone's going to want to point the finger straight to the quarterback, which it should be. It's the quarterback. That's who's going to catch the brunt of this. But after rewatching the game, outside of a couple of the offensive linemen, the wide receivers seemed to be carefree. Teddy Bridgewater obviously felt that he couldn't he couldn't put the ball where it needs to be. I mean, we seen him launch the ball. The arm strength is there, but it just seemed like the chemistry is disrupted. The receivers are stopping in the middle of the route. We've seen Sutton do it twice in the game. One on a huge game on the huge post route that almost ended in another interception. Outside of like I said, a couple linemen and Javonte Williams and Mike Boone, it just felt like the chemistry, the urgency, for a lack of a better term, the want to be there. This was your best opportunity to beat them, and everything was flat. And you're right, the game plan was not to blame for this loss.
And this is a perfect question right here. If Miners makes that block on 4th down, on the 20 play drive where we got nothing out of it, how different is that game, Keith?
I mean, obviously, if we go in and we put 7 points on the board, that would have been huge at that point because we were in a 10-3 game. There was less than a minute left in the half of it, and we end up turning over the ball on 4th and 2. And I don't, I heard afterwards, Fangio talking about it, and I don't blame him one bit. Like he said, we went for 4th down twice on that drive, and we got it. A good stunt on the front end from KC. Phil, fooled Miners altogether and didn't pick up the guy who was supposed to, and he got blown up. It's a bad circumstance, but you also just hope that you would be able to bounce back from something like that. This was not a game that just completely fell apart because of that one play. It was a huge, interesting decision to take the ball first, in my opinion, after winning the toss. And
right,
and that
especially when
you're on the road,
the defense can't stop them, and they just march right down the field.
Well, and on the road, you want that ball in the second half on the road. You don't want to especially if they go in and end up scoring right before the end of the first half, and then you end up jumping into the beginning of the second half, and they have the ball. You have that. Not only do you have the chance for the game to get a little out of control, but it's KC. It's the loudest stadium in the entire league. That stadium's going to be rocking. It's just putting yourself in a bad situation. I was surprised by that as broadcast comes on last minute and all of a sudden you find that out. So
no, I'm gonna disagree real quick. Let me disagree with this. I do disagree with Keith. Look at this. We're back to disagreeing, Keith.
Oh, good.
I do feel that 4th down play, that missed blocking assignment, did change the entire direction of the game. That drive, it wasn't the fact that it was the 4th and 2 that was the fail. That wasn't the part. The problem was you just took all this time off. This was almost, I believe it was a 20-play drive.
Yeah, it was
you
20
took
plays.
all this time out. You literally were beating them down. You were going to break their will, and you just needed that one play to do it. You missed. Your momentum shifted. Felt like it felt like that was the turning tide of the game.
So
right there.
are you saying, Matt, you would have just kicked the field goal?
I would have kicked the field goal, or I would have not. It's hard because you're trusting a rookie. You're trusting Quinn Miners to make a huge play, which he's made huge plays. But I mean, you got to ask. You got to ask yourself. Maybe maybe you should have went towards your veterans on that play.
No, you don't get it both ways, Matt. Do you kick a field goal or do you go for it?
Right.
Do I kick the field goal? I probably would have kicked the field goal.
Okay. When I first watched it, I was kicked the field goal.
I would kick the field goal.
That's what I said. But I thought about it, and Vic Fangio's right. You have to score touchdowns to beat Kansas City. You can't beat Kansas City with field goals. And,
but if you grind them down as much as
you're already down by 10 points. Try to get in there, and they're getting the ball at the beginning of the half or the third quarter. You don't want to, go down 10-3 and they get the ball, and the next thing you know, you're down 17-3.
But at the same time, don't you got to have faith in your defense to continue what they were doing?
Matt, there was only like 40 seconds left.
No, I mean, I'm just saying at that point, let's say you kick the field goal. It's a 7-point game at that point. They get the ball after the half. You literally held Patrick Mahomes. We held the Kansas City offense to essentially one touchdown.
It was just to correct you guys. It was 10-3 when we were on that drive.
So literally, it would.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, it was 10.
Yeah, it would have literally been only a 4-point game at that time. It would have been smart to take the points.
Well, what does a 4?
But I don't see how. But at the same time, I just don't feel like you're deflating your team.
Matt,
you're not deflating.
Matt, please let Keith talk.
How does a
Be quiet.
4-point game, how does that help you at all? I just don't understand it. And to me, I understand that this may have been the breaking point, but maybe that's in the coaching or the strength of this team or the will of this team. You're going in at halftime. It can't be the breaking point when you're down 10-3.
It just shows you the mentality of this team and how fragile it is.
So you kick a field goal for the mentality sake of this team, not the sake of winning. Because I'm sorry, 6-10 doesn't do me any good. I still got to go out and score that touchdown.
But look at your defense kept that same fire. If you kept that same fire, you just showed that you could literally grind north of 10 minutes off the clock. And if you continue to impose your will, how does this team win? It's really imposing our will. It's about imposing the will, and that's what this team is good at. That's when they win, when they impose the will and they take the game in their own hands. That's exactly what they did. That drive.
And Vic had just told his offense, "I trust you. Get this first down."
Yeah, you are imposing your will.
Somebody missed their assignment. It's not a coaching issue.
No, it's not a. I don't disagree
as much
with
as
that.
I get on Fangio and Shermer, that was not a coaching issue. That was a execution.
It was execution.
And I agree. Go for the touchdown. Try to tie this thing up before the half. Because guess what? I mean, Kansas City got the ball left, and there was how much time left still? 40 seconds.
Yeah.
And this is what really bothers me. There's 40 seconds left. We have timeouts. They run a play. We let 20 seconds run off the clock. Then they run another play, and we call timeout really quick. Okay, what are you trying to do here, Vic? I mean, this I'll blame on the coaching staff. This was just a total another clock mismanagement thing by Vic Fangio, that sometimes the whole thing is too big for him at times, it seems like. But, all right, I'm going to ask you guys really quick. We know the defense played, and Francisco hit it perfectly here. Defense did his job. The defense they were spot on, during the game. I'm going to ask you guys, stock up, stock down for players. Whose stock went up in this game? Whose went down? Matt, I'll let you go first.
Okay, stock up is the secondary. They held it together against one of the best receiving quarters in the game. I'm going to go position groups. My stock down, my fallers, is the wide receiver group. I mean, we talked about how Jerry Jeudy needed to make a statement. We talked about Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick need to make a statement. I don't have all the stats off the top of my head, as I heard this when I was in the car picking up the kids today. Over the last 12 games, our receiving core is only responsible for 7 touchdowns. 7. Yeah. There's wide receivers in the league who have more than 7 touchdowns.
Oh, I know that.
It is horrendous.
A lot of that's quarterback play, though.
But is it all quarterback play?
I'm not saying it's all quarterback play. But
they essentially they continue this conversation that's saying as soon as it's press man, Cortland Sutton's not getting open, Jerry Jeudy's not getting open. The only receiver who's breaking man coverage and press man lately has been Tim Patrick.
I'll ask you, Keith. Do you think part of it is the receiving core is tired of Teddy just always checking down?
Oh boy, I don't know. I would hope that they're all professionals and they're out there playing consistently. But if I'm gonna switch over to my stock up and stock down, I'll go people. I won't say players in particular, but people. I would say Patrick Surtain II. I think he went out and he played a fantastic game out there. He ended up getting with an interception, and quite honestly, I love his quote after the game. When he was asked, what more can you do? He said, what more can I do? What more can we do as a defense? I think
you want to know what he could have done?
What's that?
He pulled Teddy Bridgewater.
I knew you were going there. I knew
it. He had an opportunity to lay a legal lick on a quarterback, and he held up.
Yeah,
and Mahomes got into the end zone on it. You can't do that. If you want this defense to be tough and you want people to think we're tough, you got to guard that goal line. You can't – the guy's on the 2-yard line. Hit him. Not sort of step back a little. But
thanks for rewinding me a little bit. I kind of forgot about that play.
Other than that, though, he did have a great game, and I'm really, really impressed. I mean,
But my stock down, and it's probably going to be a consistent one until I see something different, is going to be Pat Shurmur. Because I think I lay this on him. You know, you guys talk about, hey, are the wide receivers giving up? Well, they're probably giving up because of the game plan that's being called for them. You know what I mean? It's the same consistent thing that we see. You know, if you look at Teddy's spray pattern, I guess you could say, as far as his completed passes, everything's going to be to the outside. Everything's going to be within 10 to 15 yards, and we don't throw over the middle. It's the same. I saw the same thing. There was no motion in order to try to, kind of game plan against whether you got zone or man out there. It was the same game plan. And I think the best offensive coordinators are the ones that are able to change in the second half. If they're having a bad first half, being able to change in the second half. And I didn't see any change in the second half. I saw the exact same game plan go out there, and it was just, continued more failed attempts. And yeah, I guess I'll leave it at there. I could probably have an honorable mention as well.
Right. And I'm going to go, my stock up is Javonte Williams. I mean,
good call.
That guy came out and he just balled out. I mean, 178, 179 all-purpose yards. I mean, 92 of his 102 rushing yards came after contact. I mean, that's just insane. You like 90% of your yards come after you've been hit at least once. I mean, the guy, and Mike Boone did some of that too. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys watch Good Morning Football on NFL Network?
Try to catch it, yep.
And they got the guy who has the scepter and for the angry run. Mm-hmm. You see who won it this week?
Yep.
Mike Boone with Miners.
Yep.
Because Miners and is running downfield and just pancaked the guy. I mean, I mean, am I stock down? I mean, and I didn't know if this guy could go any lower, but it's Bradley Chubb. The guy's just not.
You just mentioned
the guy is not stepping up. I mean, he's been off for how long? He's been in rehab for how long? He had last week. Okay, we could give him last week. Say, okay, get back in. This was a big game. I remember seeing him crawling on the ground once trying to make a tackle, but I don't remember anything else.
Two tackles.
I mean, not impressive at all. So, I mean,
can I add to the Bradley Chubb thing really quick?
You sure can.
You know who's on the injury report this week and didn't practice today?
Oh my gosh,
Bradley Chubb, shoulder and ankle.
I don't know. He's just one of those guys that's gonna be snake bit with injuries, I think.
I don't know the severity. I just caught it.
Yeah.
Just literally about 15, 20 minutes before we came into the meeting room.
Wow.
The only thing I have is #big sigh.
Yeah, definitely.
And then I got one more stock fall, and that's Noah Fant.
Agreed.
Noah Fant. First round pick and hasn't done a dang thing.
No, I'd be surprised if he's on this team next year. So.
Well, that's a big statement, Dave. Watch out now.
Yeah, maybe he needs to change the scenery. So, all right, guys. I'm just really quick. I just want a yes or no because then we got to move on. We saw New England and Buffalo and what happened, and the weather up there was just insane. I mean, 55-mile-an-hour gust. I mean, New England ran the ball 46 times, threw the ball 3 times. Should Denver sort of adopt, and not to that extreme? I don't want us to come out and, all right, we're running 50 times and we'll be lucky if we throw 5. But how do we convince Pat that running is his friend? Matt, yes or no? Should we adopt that style?
Yes, Mike Boone should have more carries.
Keith?
No, we have a high and wide receiving core.
Okay. All right, guys, really quick. We want to take this opportunity to thank tonight's sponsor, Willis Seasonings and Blends. They're a big supporter of ours, so please check out the amazing blends they offer at willowseasonings.com, like the high elevation and the feisty lime blends. All are available on the website, willowseasonings.com. Put a little spice into your life, and let me tell you what, that high elevation and that feisty lime, if you mix them together and put them on a steak, it's going to be the best steak you ever had. Actually, we've taken that, me and another guy, and we're working on a steak blend. That's a combination of those 2 spices. So, All right, guys. Let's get ready to roll on. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the running back position. We touched on a little bit. Running back by committee. I mean, and we threw up Javante's stats earlier.
There they are. Bam.
I mean, the guy just had an outstanding game. I mean, you can't ask for much more. And then you got a guy we're like, great. Well, he's going to get no relief. I mean, and then you throw in Mike Boone, and the guy comes in. I mean, averages almost 9 yards a carry.
Yeah.
I mean, so I got a question. The performance of these two, does that make Melvin Gordon a little more expendable?
100%. I had no feeling that Melvin Gordon was going to make a pass this year. Anyway, I thought we were going to go another route regardless. But yeah, I think it makes it easily expendable now that Mike Boone has been able to come in and spell, and he's on a 2-year contract, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there was probably only one real way where we could ever see Melvin Gordon possibly return, and that's if Denver secured the big name quarterback, and he would be wanting to take initially like a 50% pay cut. Do I think Melvin Gordon would do that? Most probably not, but he's also never been to Super Bowl, never been to playoffs. He's getting close to he's never been successful on a successful team in the playoffs. So maybe that would be enough to, entice him to want to take a pay cut, but that would be the only way with that. I could see that happening. But with Mike Boone's performance yesterday, and let's be real, Javante's performance, on Sunday, there's no way he's coming back.
Right. And I don't think he is. I thought you meant this season at first. I had to process that. And I'm like, I think he's going to play the rest of the season, Matt.
I think I do think there's a possibility, depending on how the next few games shape out. I think as we approach, in my opinion, the more likely scenario of not being able to get into the playoffs, I think we'll see more Mike Boone than we will Melvin Gordon at some point.
Wow, that's a bold statement, Keith. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I love it because I'm a kind of a Mike Boone fan. After I saw our signing, I went out and I looked at a lot of tape of him. He's a fantastic back, and like I said, fantastic receiving back. Something that Melvin Gordon was fantastic with the San Diego Chargers before they came the LA Chargers. I just think that he could bring a lot to the team. So, if we can get more touches down the stretch, I mean, maybe that's even a possibility just because of Melvin Gordon's, it seems like on and off injuries he's had, hitting the injury report list quite a bit this year.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a part of it. And the other reason why you want to see Mike Boone more is you got to know if this guy can be your RB2. I mean, essentially, he's only signed a 2-year deal. So you got to evaluate what he's able to offer. Can he meet Javonte Williams with north of 12 carries, depending on who your quarterback is next year? If we're having to adopt the same mentality of run first, you got to be sure that he can meet you at an 18 carry type of game, like you see Javonte and Melvin split sometimes.
Right.
And you don't think he's capable of putting up I just look at Javonte Williams as, is he capable of being like a Dalvin Cook who carries the ball 90% of the time, when he's on the field, rather than being that guy that needs the 50-50 split like we've seen with Gordon and Javonte Williams. Is that a possibility in your mind?
It is in mine. I mean, I think that Javonte, the more he gets the ball, the stronger he gets. You got those running backs that they just get into a groove and you just feed them. And I think that's where Denver really has struggled with this whole running back by committee. Stick with a guy. And somebody even said, well, you're just going to burn him out and he's shelf life only going to be 4 years. So what? I mean,
I want to bring up a point though that you mentioned,
it's easy to find running backs. They're falling off trees.
But I also want to bring up a point you mentioned though. You said, you and I were talking earlier today. The closer he got to the ground, he was letting go of the ball earlier and earlier as the game came on. He's already fumbled a couple of times. If you start beating this guy in, is he going to wear down, and are we going to see those fumbles start to happen? You got to be cautious. You need a good split these days. I mean, even Derrick Henry. You look at all these guys, but you don't want to pound them into the ground. You want them to have a decent shelf life. You start beating them into the ground like San Diego beat Melvin Gordon into the ground early. What happened to Melvin Gordon? His injuries essentially almost derailed his career. You also don't want that. You don't want your young back.
Do you want two guys to just get the ball 18 times each, Matt? Is that how you want your running back room to work? And not let anybody
I don't think
get
it should
into
be
the flow
18,
of the game?
18. I don't think it should be 18.
Well,
18.
you know what I'm saying, I mean,
yeah, I do think it should be a decent split between two quality backs. I really do.
All right. I mean, and those were concerning, and yeah, I did bring it up. I mean,
look at Christian McCaffrey. The dude's super young. I mean,
but some guys can take it. Some guys can take that abuse. I mean,
but what happens?
Javonte Williams has only been playing running back for 4 years of his life. Before that, he was a linebacker. I mean,
yeah, and he also came from a running back by committee in North Carolina with Michael Carter. So, I think he thrives in that system. I think that's what he needs. I think.
So the nice thing is his body's young and it hasn't taken the abuse. What's your approach on that, Keith?
I think it's really nice to be in disagreement with Matt once again. It seemed like we had like 2 or 3 shows where all we were doing is agreeing with each other.
That was getting boring.
I know. It was like, and I think the last show we all had together, we all just agreed. But I completely disagree with Matt. Like you said, I think that he's a guy that I've seen it when we went back and forth. Javonte Williams at the end of his time on the field is putting up some of his best numbers. And then it seems like we take him off and Gordon goes in. And then it takes him a run or two. And then all of a sudden, once again, he's back up and running again. This is a guy that I think can get 80% of the snaps. And with his, like you said, between what he's played his position, between split times his back, he just has longer legs on him. He has the capability of running for longer and longer years. I don't agree with just splitting time because we should split time. I think we have a running back that, quite honestly should have been a first-round pick. Was lucky enough we picked him up in the second, and let's run with him. Let's go.
Well, and I also think that it helps the offensive line because you got guys who are two different. They run differently, they hit holes differently. And the offensive line likes to get into that groove too. And if they know that it's Javonte Williams back there 85, 90% of the time, they're going to like that much more than, hey, okay, well, let's run Javonte for 3 plays. Now here comes in Mike Boone and because Mike Boone and Javonte are totally different. I would say that Melvin and Javonte are a little similar to each other, but I mean, not totally, but they're a little closer. So I think that sort of, affects your offensive line too.
I will also say, moving forward, we really don't know what the offensive philosophy is going to be. If this is going to be an offense where you're wanting to rush north of 30 times, I don't know if you would want one running back to rush 30 to 35 times.
No, you definitely don't.
It really depends. Like if we adopted the same mentality we have right now, and that's what we're going forward next season, you got to have that secondary running back. You're going to have
we understand, and I don't.
If you get Aaron Rodgers, then it's a different story. If it's going to be 18 carries a game, and I completely agree with you there. If that's the philosophy we're adopting moving forward, getting that veteran quarterback who's going to, and we're going to be able to emphasize this pass game and that receiving core Keith highlighted, that 18 carries a game with 2 to whoever your RB2 is, yeah, that's way better. But if we're going to go run first, that's asking a lot of a young running back.
He's young.
Yeah, exactly.
He's physical.
30 times a game. That's a beating.
I'd like to see it for 4 games and just see what the outcome looks like. You know what I mean? Yeah. Let's give it a try, man. That guy, he runs like nobody else. And Dave, you hit it. As far as the blocking is concerned too. I'm sorry, but Quinn going downfield is blocking for Javonte completely different than you've seen with Gordon. I've seen Quinn Meinerz downfield blocking for Javonte Williams, throwing him forward, grabbing a hold of him, you name it. And I just don't see that with Gordon. You know what I mean? I think the guys are behind him and he's running well. And I think you need to ride that train as long as you possibly can. So, if you do only have a few years in the league, let's make the best of them. Let's not go ahead and split time. And let's face it, Gordon probably could have been a MVP Hall of Fame back if maybe he didn't split time his entire career.
Right.
I
All right.
mean,
Let's.
last thing is, I mean, you just gotta factor in the burnout factor, mentality wise. If you know you're
Like I
pounding,
said,
yeah,
it's like I
that's.
said, they're falling off trees. Running backs are falling off trees.
But that's a second round pick, not a fourth or fifth round pick. That's a high
That's all
investment.
right. That's
Yeah.
all right. You get 4 or 5 years out of him. That's the shelf life of a running back. So you can tell Matt grew up in the era where they didn't play physical football. It's all just run and shoot style stuff.
Heck no,
You know, when they
bro.
had the
I played
Franco
slot
when they
receiver. What do you mean I
dude,
didn't have
come
to
on,
do
man.
physical? Look at my size. I
Come
had
on.
played slot.
Come on.
I was come on now.
He,
I
he
played
didn't he didn't grow up in the era of the Franco Harrises,
bro.
you know,
I got
and
6 teeth knocked
John
out
Riggins
junior year. I
and
got
people
6
like that.
teeth.
Well, that's because
Take
you're a
it
midget.
out. No, I got
Wow.
my helmet obliterated off of me,
Well,
off
we're
of these
sorry,
hits
Matt.
that we hate.
Hey,
Yeah.
3 yards and a cloud of dust, as my dad used to say.
That's right. That's the way it used to be. All right, let's move on. We beat that more than a running back needs to be beaten anyway. Broncos vision moving forward. All right, so Kareem Jackson after the game said in the locker room to the team, every game from here on out is a playoff game, and that's the way they have to look at it because we're pretty much down to single elimination now. We lose and we're pretty much done. I mean, do you guys see a playoff path with the schedule we have left? I'll start with you this time, Matt.
Okay. It almost feels like that's what you say when you know you're about to be defeated. If that makes sense? Like you just know your odds are all shot, but you're just trying to be the veteran guy in the room, trying to keep morale up. I don't know. I think these guys know playoffs are not in the question. I think you know, look at Patrick Surtain's response. You said it like defense. What more can I do? What more can the defense do? What does that sound like? That sounds like this is a team that's slowly getting split apart, like it had with Drew Lock, like it did with Case Keenum, like it did with Brock Osweiler, like it did with Trevor Siemian. It just seems like this team is getting closer and closer to a split. I mean, earlier in the season, we were talking about offense and defense already getting in arguments. It just feels like this is Kareem Jackson trying to be a veteran and do what he can to just keep the locker room together, trying to get them to rally behind something. Will it happen? Probably not. But I think it's a desperation move just to keep things calm.
Keith, what do you think? Is there a chance?
Well, of course, there's a chance, I guess, but you know, it doesn't feel like it's very. It doesn't feel like it's right around the corner, right? You know, I mean, we have the Lions at home, so hopefully we can get that win. You know, now that they're riding their high, who knows? Maybe they try to go for 2 in a row. You have the Bengals at home, and then you have 3 games against your division opponents. So, you know, it's possible, and I understand the mentality. You know, if we can just take this one game at a time. There certainly is a chance. You get these first 2 out of the way, and you get a couple wins between the Lions and the Bengals, and then your next 3 are, you know, Raiders, Chargers, and then the Chiefs. So anything can happen during that time. But am I buying? I don't know if I'm putting any money down on it. Quite honestly, Dave, I'm sorry.
So, and I'm gonna, you know, sort of agree. I can see where Keith's coming from. Detroit, we should be able to beat Detroit. It depends on what Cincinnati team we get. Do we get the team that just shellacked, you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers, or do we get the team that San Diego or the Chargers just kicked all over the field? You know, so if we get that team, then yeah, we can win the next 2, and then we're setting up. We go into Vegas. I mean, Vegas those guys are a disaster. You know, they're horrible dumpster fire out there. And then excuse me. And then the Chargers, I mean, they're beatable. I mean, look what we did to them. And Kansas City, they're beatable. They didn't destroy us. I mean, yeah, we lost 22-13, so we lost by 9 points? Or was it 22-9? I forget.
22-9.
Okay, so yeah, we lost by 13.
Yeah,
but I mean, not horrible. We had our opportunities, you know.
Yeah.
If we clean some things up, I mean, realistically. But I'm like you, Keith. I'm definitely not buying.
Yeah, I mean, you have that chance to try to get the 7th spot from Cincinnati. If we look at trying to, you also got to remember Raiders are right there in the hunt. Los Angeles Chargers are right there in the hunt. Technically, the Chargers are in the playoffs right now. I believe 6th seed, if I can remember correctly. The Chargers, I mean, out of their schedule, they got the Giants, Texans, Chiefs, Broncos, and Raiders. Out of those games, they have essentially what most people would probably say 2 gimme games in the Texans and Giants. Chiefs, anything's possible. I mean, 2 high-powered offenses. I mean, the Raiders aren't a joke, and neither are we. So, I mean, it's going to be kind of muddy for them. Looking at the Raiders, they got to go through Kansas City this week. They got the Browns. They got us. They got the Colts and the Chargers. So, looking at this, it comes down to, can you have a better run than the Chargers? Because I think the Raiders are going to fall off. They got some tough games ahead of them in Kansas City, and then the rest of their divisional opponents.
Yeah,
it really comes.
It's like Matt's saying, all 3 teams that are in front of us for the 3 wild card spots they're catchable. With some help. I mean, we're definitely going to need some help, but we need to take care of our own. Take care of our own backyard first, win our games, and just don't worry about what's happening in those other games. So
this schedule could not end any worse for a team like us, where you have to go against all 3 of your division rivals to close out a season.
No,
that is the worst ending you can have.
I liked it,
unless you're in like the NFC East.
Okay. Then, all right, really quick. Let's move on. We are running, a little behind schedule. So really quick. Yes or no? Russell Wilson came out today, or rumors say it. I mean, I haven't heard Russell Wilson specifically say this himself, but there's 3 teams that he would go to. That is the Denver Broncos, New Orleans Saints, New York Giants. Is Russell Wilson worth the pursuit? Yes or no, Matt?
Yes, and you make me sad that I can't elaborate, but okay.
We'll save that for another day. Keith, yes or no?
And I'll say no.
Okay. And after I've seen his performance, I'm gonna sort of go with Keith. I'm gonna say no, because I'm concerned about that finger, and I've even heard reports that finger may be a lot more damaged than people know about. So, all right.
Well, that leaves you with no options for quarterback.
There's Matt. We're not getting into this today, Matt. Matt, we're not getting into this. So, Matt, we're on a time schedule. We're on a time schedule. We can't have you talking about quarterbacks for the next 45 minutes. All right. There's 3 playoff clinching games this weekend. 3 teams can clinch playoff berths. You guys know who they are? Just off the top of your head, really quick, who do you think are the 3 teams that can clinch?
Arizona, Green Bay, and not the Cowboys.
Hit me with this, Dave. I can't think, because then you're also.
It's Tampa Bay. It's Tampa
Matt
Bay.
got all 3. It's Arizona, Tampa Bay, and Green Bay. So all 3 of those with some help. It's not they just win and they're in. There's scenarios that have to happen, and there's too many to lay out right now. As we get closer, we'll start laying out the playoff scenarios and things like that. So
let me talk quarterbacks, but I get that right.
Yeah, the winner in some regard.
Yeah, well, at least you can get that right. You haven't got quarterback right yet.
Hey, neither have the Broncos.
Well, no, they haven't. So, all right. College football playoffs. I mean, what do you guys think? Who do you guys see as winning the whole thing? I just want the overall winner.
Alabama.
Keith?
I want Michigan.
You want Michigan?
I want Michigan too.
I think they can do it, man. And this team is playing completely different than in years past, man.
I'm gonna go Alabama. I feel sorry for Cincinnati, because if you give Nick Saban 3 weeks to prepare for anybody, Cincinnati may be in a little bit over their head. They may say, "Man, I wish they would have left us out." So, I see Bama winning this whole thing. Yeah, Matt.
Question. So let's say Cincinnati doesn't win the game, but this is let's say it's within 6 or 7, let's say it's within a touchdown. Let's say they stay within a touchdown. What does that do for Desmond Ridder?
Oh my God.
I think it's nearly impossible.
I
But
wouldn't say it was Desmond Ridder. It would be their defense.
you think that I don't know if that defense.
I mean, Georgia had the
was
best defense in the country, and look what Alabama just hung on them.
No, I don't.
41
Yeah, that's
points.
why I said I don't think it's going to be the
Okay,
defense.
I'll
It
interject.
would be the defense that would have to keep it that close.
I'll interject. The final score is 45-38.
Oh wow!
See, I don't think it's impossible. I think
I don't
people
know.
sleep on
I'm
Cincinnati.
just not impressed with Desmond Ritter. I'll have to watch more tape on this guy, but
The dude is a
I'm
cookie
not impressed
cutter.
with the guy.
He's the only consistent quarterback out of this entire draft class.
All right, guys. Any parting shots, Keith? What do you got?
I mean, probably the biggest thing is I just need to see a completely different game from Pat Shurmur. I talked about all last week about how this was Fangio's game, and he had to absolutely win this game, and he had to be out there and be the defensive mind that we hired him to be against Kansas City. And for all intents and purposes, I think we saw that. I think we played a fantastic game on defense. I think it was the offensive performance and some special teams that absolutely robbed us once again, because special teams tends to do that about every 1 to 2 games. So for me, it's hey, this next week, I want to see some big points against Pat Shurmur. So we'll talk about that a little bit more pregame,
Right.
but
And then
that's my go.
Who are you picking tomorrow, Steelers or Vikings?
No parting shots for
Hold
Matt
on, man.
today?
Oh, man. Jeez, man. You'll get there, Matt.
Gee whiz, man.
Got to throw a temper tantrum on camera.
Man, I can't wait for my parting shot.
Boy.
Let's go.
Shot's
Okay,
going to be
go
all
ahead,
about
Keith.
Matt.
Go ahead, Keith.
This is the tough one. It's almost a flip a coin. Vikings inspire no confidence. Ben Roethlisberger's on the way out, but I'm going to have to take the Vikings in a win.
All right, Matt. First, who's going to win, Vikings or Steelers?
It's going to be Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh they get hot, late in the season. They go on these crazy runs, and they got something to play for. And Big Ben saying this is his last season there. That's going to be a big motivator for him.
All right, what's your parting shot?
My parting shot is the quarterback the Denver will pursue will not be Russell Wilson, and it is 100% Aaron Rodgers. No questions, no nothing. Aaron Rodgers. If they do not get Aaron Rodgers, there will be a rookie quarterback here next season.
Okay. All right, and I'm going to go Steelers as well. I just think the Steelers are going to get on a roll to end the season the right way for Ben. And my parting shot, it sure was nice not agreeing with Matt. To see you not agreeing with Matt, Keith. I liked it. I liked it. So, all right, guys. Hey,
we're gonna have to find me. We're gonna have to find a buddy system here. I'm gonna have to find me a 4 here.
You can be my pen pal week 16. All right.
Yeah. Do you need us to alternate on and off, Matt? Who's going to be nice to you?
I don't need anyone to be nice. I'm not asking for no favors.
Well, you just said you needed somebody else.
I just want someone to hear that can talk some logical sense with me. That's what I need.
Oh boy!
Oh,
you're going to get it in the pregame, buddy.
Wait! I can't do the mic drop because I don't want to break my mic. But here's the mic drop. Done.
There you go, buddy.
I'm out. Take me out, Chris. I'm out.
All right, everybody. That wraps up the show for tonight. We will be back Sunday, December 12th at 9 a.m. for our Denver Broncos pregame show. Until then, please like and subscribe. We're on all the platforms. You can also chat with Matt, Keith, or myself through our Twitter accounts. Join our group on Facebook at Rocky Mountain Sports Network. We do a lot of posting and chatting there. Way more than we do than just NFL. We do hockey and other sports as well. You can listen to our podcast on Anchor, Spotify, Apple, and many more other outlets. And, of course, you can join us live and be a part of the conversation from all of us here on 4th and 99, a part of the Rocky Mountain Sports Network. Thank you for watching.